Alas, poor Lindsay. I knew her, dear viewer, a feminist of infinite jest, of most excellent memery. She hath bored me from her reviews 1,000 times, and now, how abhorred in my imagination it is, my gout rises at it. Here hung those videos that I have watched, I know not how oft. Where be your tweets now, your collabs, your rape raps, your flashes of morality that were wont to set the woke scolds on the roar? Not one now to mock your own sarcastic excuses? Quite chapfallen from your riot tweet? Prithee, dear viewer, tell me one thing. Are you gonna tell me you didn't see this coming?
How silly can you get? Yeah, yeah. How silly can you get? Ooh, yeah. I never ever meant to stay. Wish you looked at me that way when I was young and blurry. Made me forget. How silly can you get? Yeah, yeah. How silly can you get?
Well, looks like Lindsay's worst enemy is Lindsay. Lindsay Ellis has dropped ship from the internet. It's somehow newsworthy on Newsweek, and her Patreon has gained a substantial amount of patrons within a day. Either her second book didn't do that well, or she's making sure her third one gets at least some sales to pay for her drink and tweet tomfoolery. But what exactly happened? Why did she decide to push the self-destruct button like a cliché spy villain? Well, let's look at her own words from her post titled Walking Away from Omelas, which was properly named in reference to a Hugo Award-winning short story from the 70s that I assume Lindsay was looking into in preparation for claiming she's the only feminist to win a Hugo. Spoiler, she didn't win anything because it's kind of hard for a Hugo to be given to a story that's basically Twilight with aliens, which I'll be reviewing very soon once I can stomach the ability to finish it. The Hugo Award-winning story was called The Ones Who Walked Away from Omelas. And honestly, this story is way more interesting than what Lindsay bitches about in her patron goodbye letter. The entire connection is to the city in the story where people leave it once they find out the happy and peaceful area is only that way because the inhabitants torture a young child with perpetual filth, darkness, and misery. Part of me is thinking Lindsay is comparing herself to the child in this allegory, and another part of me thinks she wants to be the people who walk away from Omelas. She is claiming she's walking away from Omelas within her title, but, as we soon learn, she's actually the young child who's being tortured, according to Lindsay. How does she mess up so badly in her own goodbye post? Well, let's begin. This was going to be a YouTube video, but I just don't have it in me to invite that kind of scrutiny, to be the last in the sick, sad line of YouTubers who get all weepy on the camera and cry about how they just can't do this anymore. Boo-hoo-hoo. Ah yes, crying on camera is so much worse than writing an essay where you blame everybody but yourself as to why you're miserable and wish to give up on your main source of income and the very thing that allows you to employ 8 people. Yes, you heard that right. She employs 8 people to do her videos and other things, and I am very sure at least 4 of them are tweet editors and proofreaders so that they work day and night to make sure her tweets get that patented blue checkmark freshness guarantee. But the thing is that she's pretty much remarking on the sad line of YouTubers who make a video saying how they quit and then the video has nothing to do with quitting, and they don't even really quit, they just complain about stress or whatever. Tana Mungu kind of started this trend back in 2017 when she was sort of relevant thanks to iDubbbz trolling her, back when we could actually have fun on YouTube. So to recap, Lindsay is trying to say here that she is totally not like the other girls, and her quitting social media is for real this time. Yes, she said that twice already, or was it 3 times? But this time is for real, not for play. Let's continue. I had planned to move video content to Nebula, but I realize now that doing that is just keeping wide wounds open. For anyone wondering, Nebula is a video streaming platform where the creators technically own the means of production for the entire platform, because they have to join and be accepted by the other creators in order to get 50% of the profits from memberships that are about $5 a month. They claim to be an educational platform for educators, because they have people like PhilosophyTube there to stink up the place. I have nothing against the website itself, but I don't really see it going anywhere when these types of people who cater to the breadtube ideology of helping the poor and oppressed are very quick to turn around and charge money to their audience because they don't want to deal with YouTube. Maybe they see it as okay because they know the people who listen to them are bad with money management and are just going to waste the $5 a month anyway on something stupid. Just a thought. Her wide open wounds remark was odd to see since I thought she was doing fine for the entire year. She was making cute little videos about her books and Phantom of the Opera and how she wants to be purple and fat like Ursula. Lindsay. Darling, I am not sure if you can become purple, but 50% of your goal is a beautiful achievement. Wait a minute, she came out with a video every 2 months or just about? I don't know how she goes from a weekly schedule when she was with Channel Awesome, but now she does it at a 1/8 of the pace. I know she does collabs and is working on a book series, and that takes time, but she used to do skits and worked with people before. And now she just sits in front of the computer and yaps and yaps and yip. I don't want it to sound like I'm degrading what is a common thing on YouTube because what I'm talking about is her lack of dedication and creativity when it comes to the subjects and content. You have 1 million subs, Lindsay. Use that to your advantage and talk daily and about stuff that's not musicals like in your podcast that nobody listens to, which is still up, I might add. And so Lindsay goes on to say, "My life ended 9 months ago. What has been taking up bandwidth ever since then has been a ghost." I am ever so amazed that the ghost of Lindsay Ellis has been online longer than her baby was in her, and that it's taken longer for her to finally give up the ghost than it took for her to give up on giving birth. Good job, old girl. Glad to see where your priorities lie. On Twitter, liver filled to the brim with bourbon, pretending that you have nothing to do with your audience canceling you after you sent your attack hounds to cancel J.K. Rowling with your word salad of a Boogaloo video, all to wait 9 months later to say that the tweet about Raya ended your life. Now, whether we want to take this as hyperbolic or not, we had to remember that Lindsay was cancelled before when she said she was for a white genocide, during a white genocide in South Africa. I have no idea why Raya is the one that ends her life, but being sarcastic about genocide didn't. It's almost as if her fans don't care about her being edgy when it comes down to white people being killed and raped en masse. But the second she makes a tweet about Asian art direction for a Disney movie flop, that's when she takes her audience seriously and starts crying about it. Oh, I'm sorry, she won't cry about it, forgive me. She's not crying, she's just saying her life is over and writes an essay about it for people to join her Patreon to see what happened. My mistake. Carry on, Lindsay. It's almost funny how many people will insist that I have lost nothing. You know, because subscriber count is the only metric and cancel culture doesn't exist. Lindsay! I'm sorry, what? I could have sworn that her 1.5 hour mask off video was all about how cancel culture doesn't exist for people like her because she did do nothing. Am I wrong about her 1.5 hour video? All about how she wasn't cancelled? Am I wrong about her video where she says cancel culture did nothing to Joanne of Harry Potter? I watched the video again, and she claims that to be cancelled, or in this different form of the phrase cancel culture, is a right-wing buzzword that was stolen from Basketball American Twitter. And the whole time she's like, I wasn't cancelled, I just slept. Ooh, that's nuts. I was cancelled and I hate the woke scolds, and you can be cancelled too, but it's not cancelling because it's a right-wing buzzword that has power, so we're gonna call it the Beast because I like Beauty and the Beast. She flops on the deck like a fish so many times that I have no idea what she's saying anymore. Her Patreon count went up. She received 2 million views for her mask off video. She was on the news again, and she gained traction to her second book because of it, which, several months after the tweet, came out in October. She's pretending that she lost something from the sudden spike in attention, since she was in the media spotlight. And because she couldn't hold the spotlight, because she's a plank of wood both in and out of bed, it's now curtains for Lindsay. Honestly, I think she would Epstein herself if she started doing stock trading or investing in crypto, since us traders tend to see a huge uptick in value and then having to go down to a bear market on us, but it's still higher than what it was in the beginning of the year. I don't know, Lindsay, maybe you should make more videos about your Omegaverse drama, since those are what got you 3 times the amount of views that every other video did that year. Or maybe you should make your Axiom's End videos less boring and more informational, since they seem to be doing the worst out of your content. Maybe the book was pulling you down, since you used up 4 months out of your 12 to talk about it? Just a thought. One YouTube channel chugging along on algorithmic inertia is not a success. Is not successful, it's just an engine driving on fumes. From the amount of public intoxication Lindsay does in Johnson City, Tennessee, of all places, I can safely say that she has plenty of fumes for that engine to drive on. Years upon years of fumes. And if you don't catch my drift, I will say it very clearly, the bitch is a raving mad alcoholic. Many would say this is being melodramatic. It is. That my life isn't over, that there was absolutely nothing stopping me from brushing myself off, building back up goodwill, and shutting up and playing the game, and I tried that. Yeah, for like a week before your Twitter was up again, and you were back to being guilty of TWIs, tweeting while intoxicated. In a way, I suppose it's good that I did, because I needed to learn the hard way that this wasn't going to work. What hard way? What wasn't going to work? What exactly are you saying here, Lindsay? Is this about Twitter, YouTube, being a public figure? I don't know how a published author of all things ends up losing the subject of what she was writing about so fast, yet here we are. And Lindsay rambling about something with zero context just so she can be vague and mysterious. Ooh, spooky Lindsay is a mysterious and brave little toaster ghost. Fuck off. There was no unfucking this. Yes, there was. It's called not being a critical feminist theory nutbag who thinks being woke is the way to keep yourself safe from cancellation. I swear, if she was just like Doug Walker of all people, frickin' nostalgia critic, and simply didn't give two ding-dong turduckins about what people say about her, she'd be fine, and people would just enjoy her videos for being goofy. But no, she had to join BreadTube, she had to collab with people like ContraPoint, and make videos about Marxism, and Transformers of all things, as well as videos about J.K. Rowling, and being a transphobe, when J.K. Rowling was not saying anything transphobic, all so she can get brownie points from the mindless Twitter attack dogs that Lindsay conjured in the first place. This is your witchcraft, woman. In the words of the great internet lumberjack, you uploaded it, now you unload it. Technically, she is doing that, but in the wrong way. She's making sure she sticks to her toxic ideology that got her cancelled so she can attack others, while ignoring the fact that she can just change her ideology back to what it was before she became a radical fourth-wave Marxian feminist. You know, back when she had red hair and was probably a third-wave feminist. Even the Fox News conservatives think that's the bee's knees. She's safe in that part of the Overton window. She's not safe in her current mindset because it's literally making her shit blood. Just wait, that part's coming up. This is foreshadowing. Let's wait until we get to that part. You can't find the energy if there's nothing left to convert it to. Oh no, Lindsay's out of juice, guys. We've dried up this well. Her creativity well is now as dry as her cobweb-crowded pussy. She has nothing now. She was working on an essay about an album she liked from The Weeknd and was making a video about it, which honestly is an interesting album about how an artist goes from the bottom to the bottom again, and it's something worth looking into, not from Lindsay, mind you, just in general. I hate music these days, but The Weeknd is not bad at all, and he's actually creative since he took after Michael Jackson's influence with Thriller and The Smooth Criminal and turning into Egyptian Gold and yada yada yada. You cannot be a better person if you're nothing but a hollow shell of one. Quick, somebody find Sora and save this frickin' nobody! Lindsay, it's not that you're a hollow shell of a person. It's that you're a female alcoholic cunt who attacks people on Twitter and then runs away when it boomerangs back. There's a difference. 2021 has been the worst year of my life. Oh, come on. What about the year when your friend was raped before your very eyes? Wasn't that a terrible year, or was that just moved down in the top 37? I have been traumatized by it. Traumatized by Twitter. Make that into a bumper sticker. To this day, I still have people scolding me for how I handled it. What? What? In her mask-off video, she says she won't apologize to the people who were scolding her, no matter how many people were asking her to apologize, and now she thinks she handled this well? Am I reading this right, Lindsay? Did you think you handled this well? When you were telling people to squint their eyes to look at Asian racism better, did you think you handled this well? For the life of me, I can never tell if she's absolutely delusional or just never remembers anything because she has a Joe Biden disease. That I should have handled it differently. Yes, you should have. If you didn't want to be cancelled, tell the woke that they are stupid for whatever they believe in, that they're all toxic and they need to grow the fuck up, and instead of chopping off body parts, they should probably grow a spine. That's the way an adult handles it. You tell the queer crowd, eat my ass, you bunch of primitive screwheads, and you act like nothing happened because quite literally nothing happened. But no, she makes a big deal about it, she makes a big fuss about it, she has it haunt her for 9 months and she lets it get to her. If anyone is to blame, it's her for being in charge of her actions and reactions. But good luck telling the bitch to learn some responsibility. That I should have controlled my stands, and as if I have the capacity to know what people are saying to strangers on Twitter while I'm shitting blood for weeks on end. Okay, so this part is really fucking weird, right? What the fuck is she talking about with shitting blood? As of yet, nobody knows what is going on with that. I have no idea if she's saying she was shitting blood during the Raya fiasco, or if she was shitting blood right before she decided to cancel herself. There is a tweet where she was saying she can't make it to the Hugo Awards, and I was thinking, maybe she can't make it because here is where she's shitting blood, but the way she words it in her essay makes it sound like she was shitting blood while tweeting about Raya and during her production of the Mask Off video. Lindsay, if you're listening to this, I would like for this question to be answered. When were you shitting blood, and did you happen to eat Chipotle? We demand answers, woman! However, it doesn't seem as bad as it sounds, because the most likely cause of her shitting blood is hemorrhoids. Due to her sitting down all day and being a chronic alcoholic who's overweight, it's very likely that she had a hemorrhoid issue after writing her book, because she most likely didn't do the usual get up and stretch thing that we all do when we're writing. And when I say we, I mean people who aren't me, because I usually lay down in bed when I write, since I have a laptop and my worst enemy there would be back sores, which thankfully I haven't gotten in the slightest. Thanks monthly if not weekly exercise. The worst thing about this whole year is that I can't even admit this trauma because of all the rhetorical devices people have already come up with to dismiss it. Lindsay, you can admit your trauma. Nobody is stopping you from admitting your trauma or explaining why you're shitting blood. It's just that some people won't feel sorry for you because you're a cunt. And it seems that you're worried you'll get more tweets about how they are glad you're bleeding instead of patting you on the head and rubbing your hooves and going, you poor little thing, let me get you a race car magazine and fluff your pillow so you can rest in your barn and do nothing all day. And before you accuse this of being a rhetorical device, yes it is, because it's telling it like it is. Lindsay is free to say whatever she wants, and we are free to not care. That's why she lives in the land of the free and home of the Whopper. That centering my own pain is evidence of me not listening. Does it occur to these people that you can listen and disagree with other people's conclusions? Why yes, Lindsay, it did occur to us, thank you for asking. But I simply don't have a clue what she's referring to here other than her anal issues. I can only assume she was talking to another woman or a trans person, and they simply disagreed with her about an issue that was maybe related to Raya. I'm actually at a loss as to what's going on here. Maybe we can reach further and find some context clues. Come on everybody, let's go on an adventure as we dive further into her nonsensical essay that has nothing to do with the title she gave it. That I'm weaponizing my fragile white womanhood or whatever to point out that having thousands upon thousands of people who you have never met hate you and say whatever will get them the most uptoots about is, in fact, traumatizing. First of all, Lindsay, it's your side who calls white people fragile. That's your issue and your insult against your race. Second, I may be a sexist migto, but even I won't consider your insanity as part of being a woman. You are your own special breed of irrational. You never listen to people who give you actual advice, and then spin it around as if it's an argument that you're supposed to win. You bunch up any logical connections to your false idea of not being able to admit as trauma as rhetorical devices to make everyone around you sound like some sort of troll or demon. And let's not forget that for anyone who actually does disagree with you on anything, you instantly call them a diet Nazi, which doesn't really offend people like me, it just makes me want to turn that into an actual soda, you know, what Fanta was meant to be called way back when. As for thousands upon thousands of people hating you, it's called being a public figure, Lindsay. Get used to it or get the fuck out. You've been in the public eye for how long? Exactly how long were you bragging about your online experience? From 2008 to 2021? 13 cursed years of you making videos about Disney cartoons and musicals? Are you a fucking child? How many people out of 1 million did you expect to hate you? Under 1,000? For reference, if 1,000 people hate you out of 1 million, that's 0.1% of the crowd. If it's 10,000, then that's 1%. Remember, dear viewer, she is claiming she quit the internet because of the 1%. And that's if she's talking about her YouTube channel, since her Twitter has about 300,000 followers. Which means that it's a 3% of her Twitter, more or less. Either way, she is bitching about what is practically a non-existent group because she wants to make something sound worse than what it actually is. I've been cancelled numerous times on multiple platforms, and every time I laugh at it, share the event, and tell people to look at the hysteria over something so basic. Meanwhile, Lindsay sets up an entire essay to brainwash the reader into thinking that there's zero valid criticism about her opinion, because that's the only way she can feel comfortable in telling people what she thinks. If she doesn't prepare the reader with caveats about how evil they would be to disagree with her, then she's unable to say anything about the matter. And even when she does groom the reader to be on her side, she still doesn't say much that has substance. That people I used to know would flagrantly lie about me on twitter.com to the tune of thousands of retweets and tens of thousands of likes, and I just had to sit there and take it. Oh no! People are getting likes for the things that you say about her and she's not? How awful. Somebody, do something about this. You gotta do something, because Lindsay is unable to get to her phone and tweet about it due to her hands being all slippery from blood and feces. It's almost as if she can simply not care about what people say about her. But it's not like she's a narcissist or anything. I mean, sure, she may be two-faced, blame her lack of success and her failures on others, she may act different in public than private, she may be irresponsible and unreliable, she may be arrogant and act superior to people close to her. She may live in a fantasy world which may include porn, flirting, affairs, and dreams of unlimited success and fame. She may be addicted to her fantasy. She will lie and distort facts to suit her own agenda. She's irresponsible with money. She's emotionally distant and unavailable unless she wants something like when Matilda came out of the closet. She may lack sympathy for those who she exploits. She may be very controlling, unable to relax. She may provoke people and then blame them for the fight. And she may have trouble admitting her mistakes. But I'm pretty sure none of that makes her a narcissist. I mean, come on, she made a video about Loki being a narcissist, and she didn't even compare herself to him or mention herself. I mean, sure, like many others, I didn't watch the video, but I have faith, and that's all that matters. She's proven to us time and time again that she's a sweet and innocent person, and it's the evil internet making her shit blood. It's a simple case of her actually being a victim, and we have to start feeling sorry for her. So, you better start crying and stuff. Come on, cry for Lindsay. Let's see those tears going. Cry for your precious dictator. Cry for our favorite feminist bread tuber. Come on, don't make me pull out the onions and pepper spray. I want to smell the salt in the air. There you go, that's it. Are you happy now, Lindsay? We all cried for you, especially me. I let out the world's smallest tear just for you. You can thank me with anal blood. I don't need it like a bucket full, just like an envelope or whatever. My favorites are the people who dismiss any potential harm I might have incurred as justified, because I am a wealthy white woman. I'm not wealthy. While these same people's hearts positively bleed for Britney Spears. What the fuck are you on about, Lindsay? What does Britney Spears have to do with any of this? Are you saying the Leave Britney Alone guy is attacking you on Twitter? Or that there are Twitter people who are tweeting about Britney checking herself into the mental institution? I don't think Lindsay understands that Britney suffers from a mental illness that was diagnosed, yet is not publicly disclosed. Britney had to change her pills after her check into a loony bin since 2019 because she had an actual mental illness that made her shave her head and go on rampages, while her father's hospitalization pushed her further towards the edge. As for you, Lindsay, you may have problems of your own, but I don't think you're the same kind of crazy as Britney Spears. Also, Britney actually does stuff with her fame and is loved by more than just Twitter feminists and trans bread tubers. She has been liked on the global scale since the 90s. You are hated within a certain niche circle since you started calling everyone diet Nazis, and you radicalize a bunch of useful idiots to attack anyone who believes in your critical feminist theory baloney. Then you cry foul when your feral minions bite your hand, which fed them. They were thirsty for blood, and you were leaking plenty of it from your ass, and now you're surprised it came back to bite you in the ass. Yes, I went there, and yes, I did spend all night thinking of that pun. Thank you very much. These people don't see how similar these talking points are to the same boomer bootstrap parenting style that I thought most of us had agreed was abusive. Nobody agreed to this, Lindsay, other than a small, niche, pathetic, irrelevant group of progressives you hang out with and drink heavily near. What Lindsay doesn't understand is that the idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is a common saying because so many people believe in it, both in the US and everywhere that conservatives exist. China is a beautiful example where people think this way because they live in such a horrible environment that breadtubers wish upon the West, and it is just as ironic as you think it is. Her group is small, her echo chamber is even smaller, and she keeps thinking that everything that appears in her feed that's heavily regulated to only show things that she didn't autoban is somehow the entire world. This is why whenever people claim that Lindsay sounds smart, I always have to ask, when? She can barely make a coherent sentence in her goodbye letter of all things, let alone understand how the world works beyond the baby level of out of sight, out of mind mentality. It seems that she wants to insist something is going her way in the hopes it becomes her way. But all of this is wishful thinking. Something tells me she's been watching Disney movies as a religion rather than a means of escapism. That you need to toughen up, accept your punishment, accept that even if the reaction was outsized, that you did something wrong. You did do something wrong. Because when there's smoke, there's fire. There was a fire, Lindsay. You said there was. Grow a thicker skin. You know, that's actually good advice. She should. These same people who always crow about believing victims. I think she messed up here, because to crow about believing victims is her thing, not the evil diet Nazi boomer thing. She probably meant crow in a different way, perhaps like to mock or demonize the idea of, but either way she said crow as a verb, and here it would mean to have these diet boomer Nazi bullies to gloat in satisfaction about how they believe victims, which I'm pretty sure goes against her narrative. Telling victims of public dog piles that they do not deserve to claim their trauma. You can claim whatever you want and nobody is stopping you. I know you have daddy issues, but they are not your dad and you are not their slave. You are the girl boss, remember? You're the walking cliche that you said was a bad thing in your girl boss video. Maybe pull yourself up by your high heels and start strutting your stuff, but for the love of God, mind the wooden floors. We don't need your mighty hooves to punch holes over the place like it's a pincushion. Let alone process it because they deserved it. There's no such thing as cancel culture. Here's where she messed up even more. It's the same paragraph, but she started being sarcastic, as she was in the very beginning. But through the syntax of the paragraph, it's highly likely to mistake this for sincerity, since she was sincere right before this and just out of nowhere added in sarcasm. Either that, or she's really sure that there is no cancel culture and there's nothing to be alarmed at, and there was no fire and we can all ignore this and go home. But that's not the case, because she does think she got cancelled. She understands it was her leftist Marxian critical nonsense theory side that cancelled her. And she is highly emotional about all of this while claiming she's not about to admit her trauma because somebody told her she can't on Twitter. Honestly, I was here to make light of the whole situation, but I'm just as lost as you are. So let's get further lost, shall we? There is no incentive/reward structure in place like Twitter to call people out. There are no updos and blah blah blah. Jesus Christ, this woman rambles. I reread the 2015 essay, Hot Allostatic Load, for the first time in years last night, and I just could not stop crying. Yes, because that title really pulls at the heartstrings, doesn't it? Who the fuck uses the word allostatic? It's just a fancy way to say stress is accumulated over time from events and we function better when we are stressed, but not too stressed. We can't be bored and we can't be overwhelmed. It's a scientific way of saying the obvious. Now back to the bitch crying. Even reading some of these passages now, I can't stop crying. This was written from the perspective of a trans femme. I think she put femme because she doesn't want to say the term male as in female. And yes, she is that off her rocker that she would do that. She doesn't want anything to do with men, which is why she wears her makeup like Jeff the Killer. It's meant to attract the gay, but keep the straight males at bay. And discusses some rhetorical devices. There she goes with her buzzword, drink! Used to demonize trans women specifically. Oh, so she can say women, but not female. Got it. I guess she's accepting that trans women are not females, they are just the mentality of a woman, because woman is the idealistic abstract and female is a materialist concrete. Which obviously does not apply to me, but some of it is spot on. Translation: this isn't supposed to apply to me because it's about the trans struggle, but I can totally have this apply to me because I'm a bisexual woman who's just as stressed and mentally irked. One of the most common tools of exclusion is through mobbing, which is rarely talked about because unlike rape, murder, etc., it's not easy to pin it on a single person or scapegoat. Tell that to the US president who sends troops to any war. Hoyo! Mobbing is emotional abuse practiced by a group of people. So remember, Lindsay is saying she relates to this essay because she was mobbed and emotionally abused by the group of people who are the woke leftists. Keep that in mind as you read along. Usually peers. Lindsay was attacked by several people she seemed to have worked for or at least respected for whatever reason. Lindsay, for the love of God, find better friends and stop depending on them so much, thank you. Over a period of time through methods such as gaslighting, rumor mongering, and ostracism. This actually did happen to her during the Channel Awesome days when she was involved with rumors and such conjured by the dude who plays Mati, who was actually a producer of the movies that Channel Awesome made. And knowing that makes their movies all the more ironically hilarious. But let's forget that because Lindsay is relating to the trans person being sad and she's crying and stuff. It's most documented in workplace or academic environments, i.e. key points of capitalist tension. I'm sorry, but no. These are key points of socialist tensions between workers. Maybe she's crying because her trans idol is garbage at wedging in capitalism as the cause of their problems, and she was just frustrated with having to quote an otherwise relatable passage, but had to throw in the part that makes it entirely smooth-brained. But is thoroughly institutionalized into feminist, queer, and radical spaces as well. In other words, nobody is safe from being mobbed by toxic people because you're going to meet them in the workplace, academia, feminist, queer, and radical circles. And when I say nobody, I mean these precious snowflakes, because it's these places that these regressive progressives take seriously, and they think it's the entire world. I swear, someone needs to send these highly privileged meatbags to a Chinese rice field and have them pick rice all day so that they can understand how the real world works. This is what comes out of a pampered environment, where everyone is babied as an adult. We get fully grown adults bitching and moaning about being excluded from groups that don't matter to them. Here is why it is horrible. And then they just list off 3 reasons that don't really mean anything other than, it's bad to have rumors about you because it will make you feel bad. And then they beg the question with, for these reasons, PTSD is an almost inevitable outcome of any protracted mobbing case. So, the 2015 essay from the trans person claims people will get PTSD from being ostracized from their friend groups and from their work circles, and there's nothing you can do about it. I would believe this if there was any proof of this, and if they weren't basing everything on their own dependency on social acceptance because they suffer from a delusion. I'm not saying the trans thing is a delusion, YouTube, okay. YouTube, okay, YouTube. That's not the delusion I'm talking about. I'm talking about the delusion that these friend groups and work circles and radical circles actually matter to a person to the point where they get PTSD. Technically, that did happen to Lindsay, but the thing is that PTSD is caused by a person living one way and then suddenly being dropped into an entirely different way of life. If you have a bunch of friends and really care about them and feel like you can't live without them, and then they ghost you out of nowhere, that's considered traumatic. But it's only traumatic because you set your worldview to an insane degree that's absent from reality. You set yourself expectations so freaking high that you disappoint yourself to where you don't know how to live with yourself. This happens all the time to men with their wives divorcing them, or when they lose their job they've been at for all their life. But those people don't matter, and I shouldn't even mention them, because Lindsay is sad, guys, and she's crying tears of anal blood, alright? The Isabel Fall case is almost a textbook example about how online mobbing harms people, and how the people who participate in these mobs never engage in any self-reflection. I don't think those are the people who participate in mobs. I think that's mostly just the woke left that attacked Lindsay, and I guess those Puritans you see in movies that always point fingers and call everything the devil when they commit sinful acts of homosexuality and crystal meth, while their kids watch behind a slightly cracked open door. I swear I saw that in a movie once. When some people read Fall's helicopter story. Alright, so some backstory for this lore. There was a trans person who wrote something called a helicopter story, and the left thought it was mocking the idea of sexually identifying as an attack helicopter, because the left is goofy like that, and can only focus on dog whistles. The short story was originally titled I Sexually Identify as an Attack Helicopter, and was a military sci-fi story about a near future, where the US military uses neuromedical technology to reassign the main character's gender identity to attack helicopter, in hopes that it makes Barb a better pilot. Barb is the main character. The story was meant to be a subversion of the meme, not an extension, because the entire idea was to make the meme have a sort of function in the world and turn into an allegory about how the author's queerness really is. I've never read it, but I think it's interesting to see a gender as a theme in military sci-fi, and I'm sure we'll see more of that in transhumanist stories to come. But what's hilarious about the entire thing is that people thought the trans author was a neo-Nazi, because there's the number 88 in the story, which is a dog whistle to these people because they think it means HH for Heil Hitler. Also, the publisher of the story, Clarkesworld, which is a popular short story magazine that I actually do respect because of how much effort they put into such a small niche, they had to remove the story at the request of the author. Afterwards, the author went into a psychiatric hospital because of suicidal thoughts, which, let's face it, was inevitable for the person like the author. Then, apparently there were comments about how the author must have been a man because no woman would ever write in the way she did. And that kind of comment increased the author's gender dysphoria because, you know, random comment from someone means so much and is so valid. I mean, it's kind of true, but the author doesn't know that. Well, anyway. In Question the Trans bona fide of the author in early 2020, Twitter did what Twitter does and ruined Fall's life. Death by a million cuts. No one single person even beginning to question whether they did anything wrong by jumping to the worst possible faith interpretation of both the text and the author. Yes, Lindsay, I agree. People shouldn't be in bad faith and jump to the worst possible thing on Twitter about text and authors. Yes. So, why the fuck did you do that to J.K. Rowling, you dirty bitch? But let's get something clear. Isabel Fall is still alive. At least to my knowledge, they are still alive. Lindsay makes it sound like this person fucking died. But thankfully, they are safe and sound, and all that happened was that they went to a psychiatric hospital because they already had a mental problem prior to this event where the author was attacked on Twitter. It's almost as if these trans people don't simply have a gender dysphoria, but more like a general dysphoria with reality. They can't handle the real world, so they had to hide online in circles they think are safe. Then these safe spaces are full of bugs and angry people, and they end up in the loony bin. Lindsay relates to this because reality is too hard for her to handle. Maybe that's why she drinks so much. Maybe that's why she hides in her Disney movie addiction. I love art as much as the next pretentious bunghole, but I enjoy art because it can show us the worst of the world and beyond. I don't care for unicorn farts and rainbow gumdrops. I think that's very gay. I, like many others, have no problem accepting reality. Lindsay, like so many in her safe space, have a problem accepting reality. Blah 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 blah, Neon Yang became a new scapegoat du jour, using some of the exact same tactics used the prior year to attack Fall. So here she was talking about this Singaporean author named Neon Yang who does what is called silk punk, which is a cultural appropriation according to his people, but Yang is a non-binary queer person who called out Isabel Fall for being problematic, which is pretty hilarious because it feels like Yang also attacked Lindsay for her riot tweet, although I can't be bothered to dig up that garbage. I'll just keep it as a highly likely, because the only reason Lindsay mentions anyone is if they attacked her, or if she admires them, or she wants to get brownie points and go, look, this trans person exists, and I'm acknowledging their existence. Please don't kill yourself. Which is one of the most condescending things you can do to these people. I mean, not to worship the trans deities like Lindsay does, but at least I'm treating them equally to how I treat everyone else, i.e. very poorly. I'm not going to touch on Yang's original comment, and yada yada yada. My goodness, it's impossible for this woman to get to the frickin' point already. While Yang said whatever about fall and helicopter story, all while having absolutely no idea what was going on in Yang's private life. So here she says that yes, Yang attacked a trans person and sent a trans person to the hospital with PTSD, but telling Yang they are doing something wrong and attacking them about it is just as bad. I kind of get it. Two wrongs don't make a right. But what's funny is that Lindsay messes up here. She says Yang, a non-binary trans person, which is false. They are a non-binary lesbian. Lindsay, I understand it's exhausting to pretend like you care while crying for yourself 9 months later, but you have to remember that a trans person isn't a lesbian, and a lesbian isn't a trans person, according to your side. Thank you. She then quotes that 2015 essay again, and I love how ironic this is. Check it out. Feminists/queer spaces are more willing to criticize people than abusive systems because they want to reserve the right to use those systems for their own purposes. So, to say it in English, the groups that Lindsay clings to are more willing to criticize individual people than the system, because these feminist and queer circles want to use these systems later for their own agenda. The trans person is red-pilling Lindsay, and Lindsay didn't even realize it after reading it. Then, Lindsay continues with, something else that was also inevitable. I was going to quit YouTube. I guess? Maybe? Like, it's hard to do YouTube once you hit 90 or something, but I'm pretty sure she has more years to do the things she wanted. AVGN is still doing YouTube and he's like 60 with grandkids already. I knew I couldn't do it forever, that I was running out of steam. That's a woman code for I ran out of stuff to talk about. That I was sick of the increasing dehumanization inherent. Inherent what? Oh, I think she switched the two words there by accident. She's typing through tears, people. There's no time to read your work before charging people for it. She needs your Patreon money on the double. That I just didn't have anything to say about movies anymore. I guess Doug feels the same way, which is why he's reviewing the same movies like 3 times over. The plan was always to end with Love Never Dies, since it seems like the best place to end. Ah, how poetic. And credit given where credit is due. She made her last video something nobody cared about, and I thank her for that. I love Phantom of the Opera, I love some songs from Love Never Dies, but there's no way in hell I'm dumb enough to have Lindsay Ellis, of all people, taint my love for musicals I actually like. And yes, I do love musicals, but don't trust my opinion on them because my favorite musical is unironically Shrek the Musical. You've been warned. My initial plan was to leave YouTube for Nebula, but I realize now that this is only entrenching myself in a more intimate form of harm rather than the broad buckshot kind that YouTube invites. She's literally saying that breadtubers that indoctrinated her into their cult and rose her to 1 million subs are the ones who are going to attack her again, and it's agonizing to see her constantly dance around that subject as if nobody is going to notice. Remember everyone, it is the woke scolds who are the problem, but they have nothing to do with the good woke people. Also, the good woke people on Nebula are going to pay money to attack her, so she simply can't go on with her dying career that resembles that wolf being shot by an arrow meme, and she's the baby wolf. I won't go into details, you never do, but I can't do the video content for them either. I can't make content, period. You can't make a baby that you want to keep either, but that didn't stop you from trying.
Oh no!
I just can't do this anymore. There is no healing as long as there is attachment to the thing that makes you suffer, and the thing in this case is being in the public eye at all. I wanted to make 2 abortion jokes in a row about the attachment to a thing that makes you suffer, but that's one too many. In a row, at least. What I wanted was to quietly disappear. Nobody stopped you from doing that. But since this is a platform where people are paying me to make content, I feel like I have to make a statement. It must be the same feeling that causes her to do other self-destructive behaviors. Hey Lindsay, maybe you should listen to the angel on your shoulder and stop listening to the devil. The devil's the red one, and you should stop listening to it pronto. If it were just me by myself, I wouldn't just sign off and say goodbye, and that would be it. But I have a team who depends on my company for health insurance, and including dependents, I supply full benefits for 8 people. And here in the US, employer-based insurance is often the only feasible option. So let's recap. She says she's not wealthy. She owns a company and employs 8 people. She has these 8 people depend on her for income. Her bright idea is to keep these 8 people employed under her and then go online to say, I'm going to quit making money to pay you, but I'm going to keep you employed. What could go wrong? Saying to everyone, sorry about your children, but they can't have insurance anymore because Twitter makes me sad, just doesn't seem like a fair deal. None of them incidentally know I'm posting this. Did you catch that? She is admitting that this is all because Twitter makes her sad. She is saying she quits making money that she hired these people to help her make. She says there's 8 of these people, and none of them are supposed to know about this post that she linked to people on Twitter. She drops the bomb on them out of nowhere, saying that it's not fair to say it's because of Twitter making her sad, but in the post that explains it all, she says this is because Twitter made her sad. But she said it in a long and smart way with quotes from a trans person and compared herself to a trans person who was suicidal, so it doesn't count. She's not wealthy, okay? She's just able to pay for 9 family livelihoods. I'll be damned the day I admit a wealthy person is able to supply a living wage to 9 families. Well, now that I think of it, that's pretty filthy stinking wealthy. So the only thing I can do now is to keep this page active with the loose promise that someday I'll figure something in the future to make up for this. Just get them another fucking job, woman. They're not going to sit on their thumbs waiting for your drunken bleeding ass to help them, of all things. They have shit to do, and they are able to handle the worst of bosses thanks to you, and experiencing your nonsense. They're battle-hardened warriors. They can go on LinkedIn and find anything else for what is perhaps better pay. I'm also pretty sure they are freelancers who used her as a way to get cheaper health insurance, and who could blame them? It's not their fault Lindsay offered to pay for that shit. We're so sorry, Consuela. You are no longer able to clean up the broken glass and candy wrappers around Senorita Lindsay's desk before shootings. She is no longer going to use her camera, and we must send you back to Chihuahua. Bye! While asking you, please stop messaging me, apologizing for not being able to subscribe anymore. You don't owe me anything. This Patreon is like my own life and career, just running on fumes. Yeah, so is Spoonies, which is still giving him $300 a month after his latest content was made practically a decade ago. If I didn't know any better, I'd say Lindsay was using her 8 employees and their children as a means to acquire more patron bucks, considering her Patreon increased dramatically right after this post. Checking in about 3 days later, it's gone up by about 34.7%. It's almost as if this was her plan and she did it intentionally, since the fucking essay is an exclusive to her Patreon. But all I know now is that being in the public eye at all is a losing game, and I regret all of it. Really, Lindsay? All of it? Even getting to meet the wonderful ContraPoints and the immaculate Linkara? Please, don't make me chortle. Oh. I regret every time I've ever stood up for anyone. It always backfires. Yeah, because you suck as a friend and suck at arguing. The only thing you don't suck at is making Movie Blob look like a buffoon, and you're not even needed for that to happen. I regret every time I pushed back against something unjust. It was always just used to hurt me. Real talk, I have never seen her fight against anything unjust. I've only seen her go on Twitter to attack random people for things that don't really matter. There's this thing she did right before posting this essay where she told this guy, Todd Scott, to remove a video he did with a person Lindsay knew from the time when she started her own website. And this person was going by the name Jill Barup. And Jill said something totally normal about how they don't like child rapists or something like that. But because the rapist they were referencing was a trans person who raped women, and this trans person was being sent to a woman's prison, and they didn't like the idea of a child rapist being sent to a woman's prison where he still had a penis that could rape people, that was seen as problematic. And so Lindsay cut ties with that friend and believed they were evil enough for her to tell Todd to remove his video from Standard, and Standard is a company that owns Nebula. It's almost as if she pushes a pendulum forward and has a confused look on her face when it starts swinging back at her. I regret every time I stood up for myself. I never did it correctly. Because you never did it correctly, you dumb bitch. You always try to do it in some weird radical feminist alcoholic way, and then you wonder why it didn't work out so well. You can't shush a bunch of ravenous wolves and expect them to not rip your throat out. You have to pull out your silver ballers and start blasting, or simply don't go in the forest at night when the wolves are hungry and horny. It's rather simple. Even children know this. I regret every time I ever tried to play the game with peers and colleagues. They will drop you the second you aren't popular on Twitter anymore. Oh, little Lindsay found out that people are fake on the internet. How cute. Karma's a bitch, isn't it, Dollface? It's all hollow and brittle. Like your pussy. Wait a minute, that didn't work out. Oh well, almost done. And if there's one thing I have learned this year is how eminently expendable I am. I like how Lindsay is disappointed to find out she's a normal human. Welcome to the club, I guess. I'm glad you can join us. Pick up a chair and don't forget to be late on your new job as a goth IHOP waitress who would have been a Denny's MILF if only she didn't vacuum out her uterus. The good, progressive, cis, straight, wealthy, white men keep on trucking and coming out on top because deep down, they know that the system they profess to stand against ultimately exists to benefit them. So, translation here, she's saying the champagne socialists like Vash and Hassan don't have to worry if they get cancelled because they are already good at being capitalists. But she sucks at being a capitalist, so it doesn't work for her. But she blames it on sex because she's a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs critical feminist theory nutbag. And to all the people telling me I need to grow a thicker skin or remove myself from the conversation altogether, you are right. I don't have it in me to do the former, so I shall do the latter. I can't grow a thicker skin. I'm sorry, I'm Pinocchio and I can't be a real girl. I can't grow up outside of a high schooler mentality, so I must delete myself online. My goodness, she's a frickin' child. No wonder her husband doesn't want to touch her. He doesn't want to get the pedo juice chills guys get when they are not too sure about the age of a chick they're banging. Hope your new year is better than this. I'm sure it will be, because I'm not the whiny, pretentious, toxic cunt who crybullies on Twitter all day and has skin as thin as a Progerian senior citizen. I want to wrap up this ungodly bloated video with a simple message. Don't be like Lindsay. Her insanity and PTSD was caused by her ideology. She dug her own grave, and when she fell into it, she hoped everyone laughing at her would feel sorry for her because she didn't realize gravity existed. I won't tell you what to do, but I hope you don't feel sorry for people like her. I hope you see her as an example as to what not to do online and life in general. Once you hit 18, let alone 37, You have to realize that the world isn't like how it was in high school. It seems these people can't grow out of their childhood because they are woman-childs. I would even say the woman-child is far more common than the man-child, because people see Lindsay Ellis as common or functional, while she spends all day drinking herself into a stupor and rambling about her crazy ideology that nobody outside of a niche pseudoscience circle even understands, let alone believes in. She's what's happening when someone has high intelligence but low wisdom, to the point where the wisdom is in the negatives because she was hit with a PTSD spell that brought it down further and is now permanent. And don't think I feel anything towards her. I don't. Unlike the queers and feminists she mentioned in that quote, I don't go for the person. I go for the system. Her system failed her, and just like Marxism, people who follow her think that this system will work as long as they do it in their own way. Trust me, it's not going to work. You guys are just wasting your time and giving Lindsay Ellis money for absolutely no reason because she's going to be back. In the words of Squidward Tentacles, I'll give her 11 minutes. Lindsay is stuck in her media, and she's in love with the misery she puts herself through. Because crazy gets what crazy wants. And she's a crazy ass bitch. Thankfully, love never dies, unlike her YouTube channel, website, book deal, and whatever she touches. Well, anyway, that's all we have for now. Till next time.